So today's topic, let's jump right into it, is strategies for when investor as is offers get rejected, which we know happens often. Okay. I figured this was a good way of presenting this because, when I was thinking about, with our guest, Andrew Cole, that's going to speak with us here today, I was like, how do I describe, what Andrew does, uh, you know, where does it fit in, right? And this is what came to mind. It's like, okay, yeah, where many investor offers, and I always use the stat when you're meeting with a seller, distressed homeowner that is looking to sell their home. Many cases, the property might be in rough condition, but maybe it is mortgageable. The chances still are probably 1 out of 10, maybe that they'll be considering your cash offer as is, right? And in most cases, the other nine end up getting listed, right, or not sold, but usually they will go and list it with an agent in as is condition, and they'll get a little bit more money, maybe, than what we would have offered as a cash investor, right? That's a maybe, right? There's always a risk there. But in most cases, they might get a little bit more, right, because of the exposure. However, what if if you as an agent worked with an investor like Andrew, who we're going to introduce you, in a moment what he does, where there's a third option, right? Where there is a third option that you as an agent can present. If you happen to find an investor or propose this strategy to one of your investors in wherever you do business, uh, this can really transform your relationship together with the investor and yourself and get you more business. But then if you're the investor on the call or listening later, think about how this can potentially, add another thing to your toolbox. So you're not just going and meeting with a seller with only one option, which is, I'm going to buy your house as is, cash, no problem, and leave whatever you want behind, and I'll take it as is. Like, and it sounds great to you, but it might not always appeal to every seller, right? So instead of cornering them to that one option that most investors only offer, why not consider the secondary one, right? And add this to the toolbox. So, Andrew, I mean, how do you describe it in one sentence? Is, we're not going to use the term novation, right? We've learned that already. It's simply what?
Adding value to someone else's business to help them be successful. This is
Right.
I mean, that's basically what it comes down to is, you know, providing value, providing something that someone else needs as a service, as opposed to needing something to be successful in our business. And that's really where this whole model came in. But if I could step back real quick, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here speaking with you guys again. Randy and Eric, I know you guys commit to this on a regular basis to help your community out, and everybody on both sides, realtors and investors. And it's a symbiotic relationship. We all need each other. And
Mm.
so first of all, it's a pleasure, and thank you for letting me speak. But on that note, there really is a lot of value for both parties. And when you say, the one sentence thing, it really comes down to finding partnerships and not asking, okay, this is what I want, this is what I need. I want to as an investor, I want to buy a property under market value. Well, sure, everyone does, right? Or as a realtor, I want more listings. Well, everyone does. But from the investor side, if I can talk to realtors and go, tell me about your business. What is it you're looking to do? You closed 5 properties last year. What if we can double that for you? Let me show you how we do that. And we find ways to work together. So that's really kind of how this all started. Um, our background, we've been doing this about a little over 10 years now, I guess, Randy. We go way back.
Yeah.
Um,
So I know Andrew all those years.
all those years, right? Back when I was a young buck, right? Maybe not. First of all, you all are young to me. Randy, you're young to me. So
Thank you. I appreciate that. But you look like you're not aging, which I don't know. I guess it's the bold thing. Like something about it where people that are bold just don't age.
you mean the glare doesn't give it away.
No, not at all.
Anyhow, we started just over 10 years ago, and we started flipping houses, and that was what we were doing, right? We're like trying to figure out this business model, trying to see what we can do, and that was our big thing was how do you get a house so far under market value that you can make money on it. Well, that's great if you're lucky once or twice. But as you guys know, and as investors know, and speaking to investors everywhere now, we have some big players. We got, probably 5, 6, 800-pound gorillas in San Diego that are doing over 100 projects a year, blanketing the market, with advertising marketing. So how do we stand out? How do we differentiate ourselves as investors? And so, we took on this role of flipping houses, buying them and renovating and reselling, which is all fine and good. But we found there's really a void in the market that needed to be filled. And so our evolution came down to what we saw as a need in the marketplace, right? And this comes really to the crux of our business model is, how do we work with agents to make everybody successful? For someone to, when you're buying a house cash and you're renovating and selling it, for you to make more money, someone else has to make less money. We've really developed this model where it's a win-win-win situation. It's a win for us from the development side. It's a win for the seller who's going to walk away with more money in their pocket. And it's a win for an agent who we work with, who, one, can sell a house for top dollar, who can sell a house that's turnkey, but more importantly, who can walk in with someone on their team and go, we can get this listing because we have a team who can provide value for this potential seller. So that's kind of the evolution of what we did.
And this is the picture that we had before is Lana. That's Andrew's business partner and life partner. So I know, I don't think you probably would agree. Probably wouldn't be as successful if you don't have her on your side.
She does a lot of things that I cannot do. So yes, it's an excellent team. But that's part of the business, right? Is learning what your skill set is. Man, I've tried to fix my house, and I don't touch houses now because I know that's not my skill set. Have you ever tried like laying tile and you look at it and it's like just a little bit off? Like, how do they do that? That's an amazing skill set, right? I know what my skill sets are not. So she brings a lot to the table. She doesn't do the tile, but we don't touch houses, and she does a lot of stuff. In fact, she just gave a presentation to a district NAR meeting here in San Diego. So
Nice.
we all bring something to the table. I'm not sure what mine is yet, but maybe we
Yeah,
have,
so like
we have,
let's
we have-
unpack like because I'm sure some of you might be familiar with the company Curbio is one, right?
Yeah.
It's a national company that is really pitched heavy to the realtor community, like, hey, partner with us, bring us in, we're gonna beautify, renovate the property, we're gonna pay for it. And I've played around with it and I found their costs to be actually very high. However, it is the business model, right, Andrew? It's just a lot more, I would say, localized, not this corporate gorilla coming in that has probably much more overhead than someone like Andrew and Lana, right? Where I'm guessing, this is my guess, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you even have case studies of this, where I would guess if you build relationships on the ground personally with contractors, you'll probably beat the pricing of Curbio. That would be my guess.
Correct. Absolutely.
Have that happened? Like, has an agent has anyone ran you against that, and maybe explain just the business model?
Well, there's more to it than that. And everybody is kind of getting into this market a little bit, right? Because it's really a value add to an existing business. I mean, Renovation Realty, if you're familiar with them, they kind of started off this process with, hey, we'll come in, we'll renovate your house for you, and we'll have the listing, we'll do all these things. And they want to they secure their investment by getting that listing and having control of the project. And that's all fine and good, but it doesn't give us an alliance with realtors out there that want to bring us projects. So this business model really it's renovating a house for a seller and their agent so that when you're done with it, they can sell it for top of the market. So if you're a realtor out there, and you're out there pitching, hey, I'm the best realtor in the world, in San Diego, what are there, 20,000 realtors in San Diego right now? I mean, you can say you sell it for $1 million more. You can say you're the best agent, but what if you can bring in someone on your team who can renovate the house for that client, right? Hey, you know what? There are 10 realtors that have given me this pitch, right? Why are you choosing me? Well, not only can I bring a cash buyer to this distressed property, and we know how that, goes with the competition things, but I can also bring in someone who can renovate your home for you, sell it for top of the market, and then you've got a spread of anywhere from 50 to, we did this one just a few months ago where they literally netted 350,000 more than their cash offer netted after we renovated the property for them. So if you're
Wow.
an agent out there and you can bring in someone as a team to do that, we add value as investors, as renovators to realtors out there, and vice
Is this a
versa. Hmm.
so Randy knows a little bit of it. I know I don't have the background of it. So is this a partnership you're doing with the homeowners? Like the agent goes and does the listing, the cash offer doesn't make sense, and instead of lowballing or them trying to list on the market, they say, you know what, I have somebody that'll partner with you. They'll do the renovation. Now, let's say it increases at 100,000 more they're going to bring in. Do you split the 100K? Is there a split that goes into it? Is it different for each home you're doing, or how does that typically pan out?
That's a great question, Eric. What we do is we'll go in, and because we have this experience with being cash buyers, we know what investors are able to pay for a property. We know what the market
Hmm.
is. We'll do
Yeah.
an in-depth analysis of what the the ARV or the aftermarket value will be once it's renovated. What is top of the market for a comp property? Is it
Yep.
a 3-2 track home, 1,500 square feet, 7,000 square foot lot? We know what the comps will be if we dial it in at top of the market. We also
Okay.
know what the value is in its distressed state or whatever state it's in. So what we'll do is we'll come in and we'll go, hey, you know what? Here's the market right now. This could sell for, not in where y'all are from, but here's a fixer, a track home in a so-so neighborhood. It's, $600,000 in its current condition, right? That means basically
Yeah.
beat up. Well, market might be 900,000 if it were just dialed in, top of the market, everything was really looking good. We'll come in and we'll go, you know what? This is how we get it to that $900,000 price point. And we'll design it. We've done so many projects now. We know what the markets are. We know what people are looking for. We work in conjunction with the realtor who brings us in to go really kind of dial in the features that are going to sell that property. And we'll put that together. We'll put a detailed scope of work and we'll go, you know what? We can do this for, let's say it's a full gut with some mechanicals and a roof, right? We can do this full thing for you at a cost of, say, $160,000.
Yeah.
That cost, by the way, would probably be less than the cost of hiring their own contractors if they could manage to fund it all themselves, design it themselves, run it themselves, materials it themselves. We still can do it for less because we have wholesale materials, contractors that we work with, 20, 30 projects each. So that price that we bring, the agent now will take it to that distressed seller and go, you know what? Hey, you can get $600,000 for this house from 15 cash buyers within $10,000, $20,000, or we can bring in our team. You walk away, they can renovate this home for you in 7 to 8 weeks, and you're going to gross an extra $140,000 in 2 months doing absolutely nothing. And obviously, there are additional realtor fees on top of that, right? Because it's a higher price point, some other factors
Yeah.
involved. But okay, so they net an extra $130,000, $125,000. Is that worth it for a seller to wait 2 months for $125,000? Unless they need the money yesterday, absolutely every single time.
That was
So
going to be my next follow up. So how often, because when we do these motivated seller appointments, we do a lot of them. A lot of times it's usually like, I just want, because like I have a guy right now that I told him like, you could list on the market and sell it tomorrow for 300, or I can give you a cash offer of 250. Because it doesn't need a lot of work. And he's like, I'll take the 250. And I'm like, you can literally list this and sell it in 30 days. And he's like, 250 it is. I'm just like, what are you doing? So how many times do you guys get like somebody that's just like, I want the money fast instead of, okay, we'll take this longer route and take the extra, money that they're going to get.
yeah, that's a great question. We only market the renovation model now And
Okay.
and it's probably, we still get probably about 60 to 70% that want the cash offer.
That's what I thought. So
It's a,
do you
it's
partner
a
then
standard.
locally with investors, or is that because the agent brought it to you? They're the ones that are kicking it off to their investors still. You're just like another option.
No, we're cash buyers. We buy
Okay.
cash or we'll renovate it. But see, and this is where all the magic is, right? And this is where the partnership comes into play. All we're doing is talking to realtors. All we're doing is helping realtors secure distressed listings by
Yep.
being the ones that can bring that value to realtor. And this is a huge value to realtors. I've got
Yep.
one realtor who I've probably bought 30 properties partnered with, right? Where he either, if we buy it, he'll double end it, or if we renovate it, he sells at top of the market. He wins either way, right?
Yep.
So this partnership is what really comes into play. As long as we're the ones that put that build that rapport, that bring that value to that realtor, if they decide to go with the cash buyer, we are that cash buyer. We're not competing against the guys that are blanketing with marketing and things like that. We're brought in, we have 20,000 people out there marketing for us, right? Once they know
Yep.
about our business model, they realize we can help them secure this listing by bringing something that other realtors can't. That's all it takes for us. We then get in, we meet with the realtor, we walk the property. All we're doing is talking up that realtor. That is the best realtor in the world. You guys did a great job picking that realtor. They're phenomenal. They usually are, then,
Yeah.
but then, they have an option, right? And now
Yeah.
Mr. Seller's going, oh, I could take this $600,000 now and close in 10 days, or I can make 730,000 in 8 weeks. We don't care which way they go, right? But
Yeah.
it's the old adage, people love to buy shit, but they hate to be sold. They're now choosing they're choosing their fate. They're not like, they don't have 15 guys coming in lowballing them. They get to decide what works for them. Whatever they choose, if we buy it, great. If we renovate it for them, great. The realtor who brought us in, they win either way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
This is, go ahead.
I would guess too that there's probably a higher probability that even if there are other cash offers on the table competing against you, because you presented two different options, there's a high probability they might go with you if they want the cash offer, right?
Yeah.
Because you build
Absolutely.
a relationship that's very different than everybody else.
And again, we're not selling ourselves. We're selling the realtor. We don't need to sell ourselves, but we've been able to build that rapport. We've been able to get our foot in the door, right?
Yeah.
We have agents, we'll get 3 or 4, contacts a day. Hey, I've got this potential property I'm trying to get a listing for, or hey, I just got this under contract. Right, great. Let's run some numbers. Let's see what we can do to help you get that listing.
Yeah.
And,
And
that's it.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Randy, we've talked about this before too. Just like the one thing that has always helped us on like offer side is one, being upfront with people. So like you're going up and saying your house could be worth this. I could make you more money, which people that automatically builds you're being kind of true to it. You're not looking like you're just trying to lowball somebody. And then giving options instead of somebody, if you throw out a low cash flow offer, there's a better chance they'll say no. But if you give option A and option B, it's not no, it's do I want option A or option B, but it kind of leads them to a yes. And then the third thing to that is when I did a lot of acquisitions in Cincinnati, I would say out of the 25 flips we were doing a year, I would say a solid half. So probably 12 or 13 were agents that were calling me that were like, I just did this listing appointment. There's no way I can list this house at Dougly. Do you know who would buy it? And they didn't even ask for the listing on the back end. Like I was just like, yeah, I got somebody for it. And like they're just like, hands up, I don't know what to do with it. Like, here, take it. And we'd go walk it, give a cash offer, and it was, a flip to go from it. So I think it's huge because a lot of agents, they don't know how to handle when they walk a house and, the floor is stacked 3 feet high with clothes and junk and boxes. Like they're just like, get me out of here as quickly as I can. I don't want anything to do with this. And then they let it be. And then that person waits for a postcard to come in. So we always try to be that like go to for that agent. Like, hey, if you walk it and don't know what to do, let us be your first call.
That's awesome. And obviously you earned that, right? Because you were able to perform and provide value and
Yeah.
and do what you say you're going to do. So
Yeah, and we always give a finder's fee.
Yeah,
sorry.
sure. Whatever it is, right? But all of it is being, first in the door, right? And building that relationship, as you said, and building rapport and being able to provide value, and they're good with that.
So Andrew, how do you get paid? in this scenario?
So great question. So let's go back to the same numbers, the 600,000, as is, or cash buyer, 900,000 top of the market. We'll put that together. And again, say we're looking at about $150,000 for a renovation is what we are going to charge them, right? So we know what that spread's going to be. We know it's worth it for us to come in and do this. We'll build about, depending on the riskiness of the market or the time intensity, we'll build about $40,000 to $50,000 of profit into that construction bid right there. So if we can do it for 100,000, we'll pitch it to them at 140,000 or 150,000. And those are rough numbers because we don't always bring our contractors in. We've done enough where we can, depending on what contractor we bring in, that we can estimate our cost. So we build in a profit. Now, obviously, sometimes it's not worth, spending 2 months on a project. Well, we don't, but having our contractor spend 2 months on a project for a $40,000 profit. So we try to create this alignment of interest. Let's say that houses are selling at $900,000 and we know we can build this house to that part of the market, right? Again, we're assuming that it's at least at a flat general economy, a flat market, or even a rising market as it had the last 10 years. It's tough right now, but our biggest incentive is to sell that house for more than $900,000. And here's where the presentation comes into play. We're like, you know what? We talk to the seller, and sometimes it gets lost in translation through too many people. But we say, hey, you know what? Here it is. You've gotten cash offers, or this is what the market is: $600,000. You could walk away. You're done. If we sell it, here's what top of the market is at $900,000. We can do this for about $150,000. We cover everything. You walk away. We get it all done. We get paid out of escrow when it closes. So nothing comes out of your pocket. All we're doing is adding value to your home that you own. Is that something you're interested in? And again, it's a rhetorical question because the answer is, well, an extra 140,000, whatever it is I can make. Absolutely, we'll do that. Okay, great. This is what the market is. This is what we're shooting for. How would you feel if we invested more of our own money and we sold it for more than that? Would you be willing to take 50% of that, anything above the $900,000? And again, we know what the answer is because they've already said they'd be happy at 900. Are they going to say no, they won't be happy for more than 900? That's not, if it's presented right, that won't happen.
Yep.
So our incentive then is to sell it for as much as we can. We had this one example we just did. They actually had cash offers at $1.5 million. It was in a UTC, a decent area here for a fixer house. The neighbor offered $1.5 million. They were going to take it. No agent fees, nothing involved. There was a realtor who knew what we did, and he was friends of the kids that inherited this house. He said, I'll tell you what, let's look at one other option. And they brought us in and we said, hey, you know what? We think we can sell this house for, I think the agent said $1,875,000 if we fully renovate it. And we came in, our bid was about $170,000 to renovate this. We figured to make about $40,000 on that. But again, our goal was to hit upside. We did such a phenomenal job. We spent more than what we anticipated we were going to spend and really thinned our profit margin down on that construction because we knew where the market would be if we really killed it, right? We did such a great job. The house sold for, I think, $2,030,000 within 12 hours. So we made an extra $150,000, about another $75,000 on top of our $30,000 roughly, because we got 50% of everything over that $1,875,000. The sellers walked away with like $350,000 more than their cash offer. So there's this alignment of interest we create by saying, hey, this is how we want to structure it. There's not as much risk. There's a lot of upside, and there's alignment of interest. We all want it to sell for more and incentivizes us to really just knock it out of the park. So that's our pay structure. We build in a profit in the initial construction, and then we shoot for a split above the market value.
So I have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
So if you sell at 900, the
Yeah,
40 spread you're going to have, you're okay with that being your spread. You're almost acting as like a GC. You're like 40K is fine. We'll move on.
it happens. Again, we're not qualified to swing a hammer, so it's not like we're putting in a lot of work. We're just managing,
Yeah, you're
planning, and
subbing it
putting it
out.
together. Sure.
So, okay, so we'll go back to the 900,000 one then. Let's say I'm an agent and I have no clue what I'm doing, and I say it's going to be worth 900 ARV, but it's worth 800. Do you guys run back end comps on that? And then do you have something in play where if it's market changes, the ARV is wrong, something happens, what's your protection instead of putting in $150,000 and now they can't sell it and you're like, all right, cool, like we're investing in this. And then do you have ownership interest in the home? Do you get put on deed? Like, what are you doing there?
Yeah, it sounds like there are multiple questions there.
Yeah.
To answer your first question, Eric, we're going to open a sub portion of our business, and that's going to be literally just to train realtors how to comp a house.
Okay. Nice. They need it.
You know what? If I get one more, MLS comp analysis based on $1 per square foot, again, I'm like,
Yes.
It's the
that
worst
house is a
thing.
mile away with an ocean view.
Yes, Andrew.
Get it.
Please.
Price,
You're
price per
speaking my
square
language.
foot.
I
Yeah,
hate
price per
those.
square
Those
foot is the worst.
one-liners with per square foot. Like, I'm like, what? What am I looking at? Anyway,
So
talk all day about it.
over a decade, we've built the skill set to do our own comps. So we can literally do a desktop analysis of an as is
Okay.
and an ARV within about 20 minutes of almost any house in San Diego, unless it's a spec home somewhere on a hill. So we don't tell them their numbers, their 800,000, or if it's worth 800 and they say 900, we don't tell them that they don't know what they're talking about. We say, you know what? We want to make sure that we build this house to top of the market. So please let us know what those comps are so we can design the house to mirror that property. We don't want to create a market. We want to know what that market is, and we want to sell to that market that's already there. And
Okay.
they'll come back with, here's my comp that justifies this 900,000 when it's only worth 800 or a million or whatever it is. Say, okay, great, but that's in a different city. Or, that's 3,000 square feet more. So let's look at the other one. What do you think of this one? Or what do you think about this one? Is this more similar? Our whole goal with this one, and we make the most money. First of all, the sellers buy into our model with the largest spread, right? The largest as is versus the ARV valuation. That's how they buy our model, right? Hey, we can make an extra 150, great, right? If they can make an extra $10,000, they're probably not going to do it. All right. So
Yeah.
spread's important. But to us, from a profit standpoint, that ARV needs to be realistic. So again, like that example where we just sold for $2,030,000, we knew we could beat that market. He justified it. The realtor picked that value. We knew we could beat that if we did it right. So that was the goal. And that's what we look for to create the value. If we know someone's just completely unrealistic, one, we might not take it because we don't want clients to be upset. Every client that we've done this renovation model for has been thrilled with us. And we have, if you go to our channels, we've got just pages of lauds from clients that we work with, which is great. But we don't want unhappy clients. But also, if we know there's no upside to split, we'll just build in more into our contract. Hey, we're going to build in a $60,000 profit or something into this because we know we'll never get a split above a certain valuation. So we look at what the market is, and we'll help the realtor come to their decision that, yes, this is the ARV, this is the cash value, and that's what we put in our contract.
So since doing this model, have you had any that have gone south or that you've lost money on, or that, like, what are you doing there to be safe?
It's a learning process. Our very first one we did, I literally wrote up my own contract, a one-pager, and I'm just thankful that I didn't get burned in those early days. We're now up to like a 7-pager that Lena had attorneys write up for us. We've never lost money in this model ever. We did have one seller who moved to Jamaica and basically didn't let escrow communicate with us and change numbers on us after her property sold. we saved her from foreclosure and caught her up. She was going to literally lose money on this property. She ended up making a ton of money with a sell renovation, and then she decided that, well, she had other bills. Now she had all this money, so she didn't want to pay us out completely. So
Oh no.
we still made about $50,000 from our construction contract, but we didn't get the split above what we, had agreed upon. So to secure ourselves, again, we look at who the agent is, have we worked with them before, do they understand the process? We now make sure that one, we have a contract in place. In that contract, it requires them to go to this agent. It requires them to sell within a certain time frame at a certain
Okay.
price range within that allotted time in the contract. We make sure that we are party to escrow so that we can communicate and submit our contract bid and make sure that we get paid directly out of escrow. We also reserve the right to we don't file a lien, but we file a secure trust deed for our investment into the property. So
Okay.
by doing those things and looking at, okay, first of all, do a prelim title report, understanding how much equity they have in the property. If they only have 100 grand in equity, we're not going to, put 150,000 into their house. We need to make sure that we're secured, but we try and do it with as warm language as possible and less boilerplate, less attorney ease.
Jargon.
Yeah.
So
it's a fine line.
So for the ones listening in markets where the ARVs are lower, like 300,000 ARV, let's just say, do you think that this model is hard to make a profit on? Right?
It's not. It all comes down to the value and the concept of what that money is. If a difference between $200,000 and $300,000 in other markets, right? It may take you $40,000, and you may have to charge $40,000, $50,000 to renovate it. Okay, you're gonna make $20,000 in that spread. Is $40,000 worth it to that seller? If $300,000 is top of the market, that number is relatively great, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense absolutely everywhere. And the reason it makes sense is, think about it, when you buy a house as an investor, right? And again, I'll use San Diego because that's what I know. What's the cost to borrow $1 million, right?
That's what I was going to say. Holding costs.
What's the cost to go through 2 sets of title, 2 sets of escrow, insurance, transfer taxes, supplemental taxes, 2 sets of realtor fees, right? I mean, at $1 million to $1.3 million, that's another $60,000 in realtor fees. There's $150,000 that literally goes away from an investor standpoint. So if you can divide that up between the seller and you, everybody wins.
Yeah.
I think the holding cost part of it, like I talk to investors all the time that don't realize how quickly that escalates. And then you hold it and then you have stress. Like, to me, there's, the stress reduction on this would be you're not adding in extra costs. You don't have a transfer. You're building in the cost for the GC side of things. And then if it all goes well, you have I'm sure you sell it to the seller, like, look, if I don't hit or go above this number, then I don't get to split the profits. Like, then I'm just helping you out. And they're probably stoked about it. And by running the project, it's the same thing a GC is going to do. They're going to bake in the same numbers or anything like that. So it's really not much different there. So yeah, I kind of see the huge benefits of it. One of the things I was thinking of, how many people, because a lot of times they don't have a place to go, like they're having to sell. And a lot of the motivated sellers I'm talking to, they're like, well, I need this money to go. I just helped one that I did an innovation and outside of Tampa, and he had to sell and then just move to Texas. But he had to sell to take that money to do it. What do you do there? Do you have money that you front them? Do you try and find accommodations, or is that just something where it's like, hey, this doesn't work, but we'll do the cash route instead?
That's a phenomenal question. And again, we're it might be cliche, but we're solution providers, right? We look at, we try and balance risk and reward. We look at, what is the solution? What do you need? How can I solve that problem for you? And is there value for me to do that? So we just closed a few months ago on a seller renovation. We have an aging population, right? A lot of our business, that people moving to assisted living or board and cares or somewhere, and there's an entry fee to get into that. a lot of these seniors too, they may be really house rich, but cash poor. They're living on Social Security, but they bought their house in 92, right? And they've got 800,000 in equity. So what we'll do is, and in the situation we just did, we've determined how much they need for 2 months expenses in their new facility. And we'll put that into an EMD, or we'll put it into a fund. We'll wire it to their escrow, and we'll include that in our contract price. And yeah, we put interest on it. We do all sorts of stuff, but we'll give them the money and release it up front so that they can move in, so that we can take over the property and renovate it for them.
So that's on top of the renovation. That's
Absolutely.
basically
It's just part of our cost of doing business. We know we can make it up on the backside. We know we're secured by the equity in the house. They've moved out. They're not moving back in, right? So we do that all day long. What's it going to take this on? Do the numbers still work? And if they do, absolutely.
and you also want a vacant house, which is a perfect situation for that. Right? Like, you want them to move out. So if you can work out a deal, like, look, how much money you need in holding costs, we got you for 2 months, then that's a no-brainer, right? Oh, and by the way, you're going to make an extra 100,000. Like,
yeah, all day long, all day long. So we
Are you
Huh.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Eric.
I was gonna say, are you covering their mortgage costs, or are they still covering that? Like, or again, situation based, I'm assuming.
They cover it. You know,
Okay.
they're all low interest rates, they're all low mortgages, low insurance rates, low all that stuff, low tax rates. There's really no utilities other than a little bit of power that we need to operate. So they hold everything. And again, that comes down to this risk reward, right? Okay, we may not, if we're a cash buyer, back to that $600,000, $900,000 spread, we need to balance a risk and reward. We won't take something on like that unless we're going to make $80,000, $90,000. Well, because we have to buy a house, we have to go through all these things, we have to put all these pieces in place. For a sell renovation, we don't have to do that. We don't buy a house. We don't have to borrow the money. We don't take on that risk. We're not holding the hook for $1 million home with, exorbitant interest every month. We don't have any of those expenses. So we can afford to make less and it still makes sense for us. So if we can make $40,000 on a cell renovation in 8 weeks without having to borrow money or do anything, we'll do it all day long. So they cover all that stuff. And
I do want to open up for questions, but last question, I have one thing. I mean, it's a given, but let's make sure, like, I think there is risk, like with any business plan that you decide to work on, right? I would say probably the biggest risk here is the contractor, right? And I've done hundreds of renovations, and you, Andrew, know, like, we've changed contractors, every few months, right? Because they get burnt out, right?
some have a lifespan. Yeah.
Right. So if you don't have a great contractor, this model will fall apart on you and it will blow up in your face. So first and foremost, I mean, before you can even consider this business model, I feel like you almost have to do a few flips with a contractor on your own. So you start getting used to that contractor, see how they operate, see if this is someone you're willing to risk your reputation with, to then partner with a seller, right? I mean, is that how it transitioned for you, where you were doing flips and you're like, oh man, this contractor is awesome. Like, I would feel comfortable doing a partnership with them, with the seller. Is that kind of how it happened, right? Or
to a degree, we probably had, I don't know, maybe 40 flips under our belt before we transitioned to this, before we found this need. And a lot of it too is matching the right contractor up with the right seller. Sometimes they're in there selling us, right? Oh yeah, it's great working with these guys. Sometimes they really jive well. Sometimes we all have them. They're more behind the scenes contractors. We wait till the house is cleared out, then bring in the whole crew. Yeah, you have to have a trust, and you have to be able to manage that contractor. Just as you would with the flip. I mean, you wouldn't want to take on a flip unless you had a contractor that you could either oversee all day long, or you trusted them to some degree. But that really is important.
I just think that, the risk factor is through the roof when it's someone else's house. And if the contractor all of a sudden forgets to pay their subs,
Mhm.
for the work that, was done already, and then you guys find out, and now you have to tell the seller because whatever, because maybe it's not something you can absorb.
Sure.
I mean, that's a tough conversation. And I've had that happen, right? And I'm sure you did too, right? Early days where, we're testing different contractors. We've had contractors screw us, man. And, it was an expensive lesson. And we have, obviously mechanism in place to allow us to catch that sooner rather than later. So the loss could be very minimal. But I just want to premise like that is probably the biggest risk with this business model, right? So if you're listening, now or later, like make sure that, you're not just, meeting someone for the first time because someone recommended this great contractor and then all of a sudden you think it's going to be a slam dunk to introduce them to a seller, right? Along with the investor. So ask questions, I guess what I'm saying. Like if you're the agent and you have an investor approach you like Andrew, like just ask, like, how many have you done like this with this contractor? What's the track record of the contractor? Like, because you got to remember, Andrew is not the contractor, right? So the process is only going to be as good as who's behind the scenes doing the work for Andrew. So you as the realtor, you got to dig a little bit deeper. At least I would recommend, just so you feel more comfortable presenting this type of an option to your client that trusts you, right? And a lot of times the client is going to ask you like, Randy, what do you think? Should I do this with Andrew or not? And you got to be careful how you answer that question, right?
That's actually a great point. And I see it mostly from an investor standpoint, but you're right, from a realtor standpoint. Again, this is a phenomenal business model that can build your business out. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of transfer of ownership. A lot of people are getting old. A lot of people have distressed homes. If you do this, make sure you find an investor or a flipper, whatever you want to call them, that you trust, that has integrity, and that will stand behind the work they do. Just like, realtors, the same thing. There's a wide continuum. The barrier to entry is low, just like investors, right? You see a great show on TV in 30 minutes, they make 50 grand. They go, oh, I want to be a flipper. There's a continuum of quality out there. So make sure if you're a realtor, make sure you vet that investor thoroughly, because that could really come back to haunt you. Get referrals, find out what they've done, walk houses they've done, see what current projects they have in place, check out the quality of work, get referrals from past clients. All those things are really important if you're a realtor and you want to bring in a flipper to do this.
Yes, absolutely, man. 100%.
Awesome.
I want to just show you guys this, once you kind of get comfortable with this type of business model, regardless of which side you're on, right? If you're the investor and you have relationships with realtors, like you might want to pitch this idea to your agents to do this. Or if you're the agent, you go and do this, right? And pitch this service, right, to your sellers, right, at listing appointments. But here's what I found online, Andrew, that Lena did a great job. And one of the things that I noticed, obviously, you guys do is you go and speak in front of realtors. Like you get out there and present this opportunity. And I'm guessing, sometimes are they inviting you to speak about it for free? Are you sponsoring it? Some of these realtor breakfasts that we have called caravans in San Diego. How do you get in with that realtor network so you're not speaking to one, but speaking to many?
That's a great question. In fact, Lana just spoke at a caravan this morning. I think she's doing 4 this week. When we're not up in Big Bear, we're down here. She's out there working, which is great. The best service doesn't go anywhere if people don't know about it, right? And so all we can do is communicate what we do, show how we can add value to someone else's business. And again, this is really key from the investor standpoint. You want to partner with realtors. They have to understand what you do, and you have to present it in such a way that they understand what you can help them with. Because every realtor out there is people going, oh, I want to buy something cheap. I want to buy something under market value. I mean, everybody does, right? But if you can sit down with a realtor and show them understand their business and understand how you can help them, and they get it, they will not leave you alone, especially once you've proven to them what happens and their client walks away thrilled with extra money. They walk away selling a house just like that at top of the market at a higher commission. They will just light your phone up, and there's word of mouth. And once it gets around, you are the team that can help realtors secure distressed properties. So
let's open up for questions.
Moving
We have a
forward.
few minutes left.
Yeah.
We kind of hogged the floor here because
Yeah, sorry.
Eric didn't even know who the guest speaker was. So I like to surprise.
No, it's a nice surprise.
Yeah.
It was.
Randy keeps you on your toes that way, right?
Yeah, he's like, you know what? We're gonna see how this goes.
Yeah, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, you're only in Southern California. You're offering yours.
We're primarily in Southern California. We've done some in LA. We've done some as north as far north as like Santa Barbara area. We do have other projects in other states, but this is really where our primary business is. And the reason being is you can't build a great relationship with a contractor. You can't build a great knowledge of the market, understand the nuances of, one street versus 4 streets over if it's in a town you don't live in. So we like to specialize in areas where we can control the market. We know what we're doing. We have contractors we trust, and we're here seeing the project.
So that was like, I thought we were pitching here is your service, but it seems like we're getting your services and also the concept, the model, right? So, right. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm investing in other markets. I'm in Indiana. Eventually want to go out to others. So it's like, how do I find somebody who's you in that market, right? Because I've got burned by a contractor, Randy, and
everybody has.
I much rather have somebody that knows that market, that's building up those networks and those contacts that I'm the investor working with, and I've got my EXP agent referrals and that I can work with. So, curious if there's more folks.
Yeah, and Andrew is here, like you said, he's not here to pitch his services. He's here to educate you guys and everybody that's listening later about just another model, right, that we can consider in this industry. So if you have any thoughts on or any questions in the future, let us know. And I'm sure Andrew, I don't know if you want to put your contact or information in the chat later.
Sure. Happy to. Randy can post my contact information directly. But are you investing in Indiana, or do you live in Indiana?
Investing. I live in LA and investing in that. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, that's awesome. We do a lot of business in West Virginia, but only because I have boots on the ground that I trust, and contracting team that I trust, and property management that I trust. It's tough when you're not in that area. You really have to go and build those relations. I would just start with getting referrals from people. Heck, I think Randy probably knows people that in almost any city through contacts, and make sure you vet them, because it could make or break you having someone who does not live up to what they say they're going to do.
Awesome. One more question. Sorry, I'll let others talk. How do you foot the bill during the remodel?
Great question. So here's the difference, right, between flipping a house and renovating it yourself, is that when you flip a house, you borrow funds, whether it's from a hard money lender or whatever. You can secure those funds with a deed of trust, right? Promissory note, deed of trust. As a renovator, you don't own the house. You cannot put someone else's deed on that. So you need to either have private funds, or you need to bankroll it yourself. One advantage, though, is that with all of our contractors now, we separate labor and materials. So they just bid labor, and we buy all materials directly. So whether it's through our wholesale lines, through a Home Depot or whatever, credit cards can be your friend, right? They can be your friend and your enemy. You foot that, you roll it over, especially you get a 0% line for, 12 months, you're golden. You're covering all your materials right there. You pay it back when it closes escrow.
Well,
I'll let it open for other questions. I have one, but I'll see if anybody's got one.
Christopher.
Honestly,
there we go.
that was my question, because you're not loaning against an asset that you don't own because someone else still owns it. So how did you, as a newer investor that doesn't have the capital to do that, because we're looking at that with even our barn dominium pits that I've been talking with Randy about and putting on it. We just saw a bunch of lots that have old farm separated. It's like, hey, kind of the same principle. Can I partner with this guy with the land? I'll provide the house. He provides the land. I don't have the acquisition costs, and now we split the profit, right? So now it's how do we borrow with the asset when I don't own the asset, right? And that's the part we got to figure out, right?
And that's a great question. But most if you worked with hard money lenders before, typically what in general across the country what they'll do is they'll do like 80% of acquisition if you're newer, 90% if you really know what you're doing, and then they'll fund the renovation cost, right? They'll do it in draws, and they stay behind it, so they make sure that the value is there before they let the money go to go there. In that case, you still need to come up with 20 or 10% of the purchase price to flip a house anyway, and that's usually filled by private lenders. Great Aunt Mary, or
So how do you
whoever you bring in. You can still get private investors. You can still write a promissory note.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
That was gonna be my question.
I was gonna ask,
Yeah,
how do
I
you
figured you were doing
secure-
private money.
So you secure their money by a promissory note, and then you also tell them, hey, by the way, if things go south, I am allowed to put a lien or deed of trust against this property, which will further cover
Sure.
you as well, is just not directly, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Or if you're fortunate enough, it's temporary. You can put a lien on your own home, or put a title against your own home to cover to secure them if they need be. Once you're in the business long enough and you prove what you do, we've done, like I said, we've done a lot of houses. We've actually lost money on 4 of them, which is a pretty damn good track record. All those were managed by somebody else, by the way. Those houses, we still, I think our greatest feat is that, one year I think we lost about $280,000. It was a really rough year. But we paid everybody back 100%. You do what's right. You take care of your people. You take care of your investors. They will invest with you forever, repeatedly, and you've got to build that up slowly. Randy's probably heard this spiel when we used to speak 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was. When we first started, we were those people just begging people for money, like, oh my God, I need $10,000. I'll do anything for it, which is not the way to go about it, by the way. We learned no one wants to lend money who's desperate for it.
Yeah.
So now it's just a matter of building up those private investors, proving what they can do, proving what you can do, that you can stand by them no matter what, and they will keep investing with
And
you.
you guys will be shocked, like who has money and you don't even know. A flip kind of landed in my lap that I own now in San Diego. I'm renovating it with Rick and Ricky, Andrew, right?
Same as his brothers, yeah.
We're partners
Same.
on it, but our private lender on it is their landscaper. The guy had cash at home. We had to like wait for it so he could put X amount per day. He like every other day. He didn't want to just bring 200,000 in cash.
I
But
love it.
Let's go.
landscaper, like he was like, wait, I'll take 12% on the money. Yeah.
You don't know, and so when you're out there, you're not asking for things. Again, it comes back to the whole business model. Everybody wants stuff. Don't ask for stuff. Offer what they need. Hey, you're at the dentist. I don't care where you are. You're talking to your landscaper. What are you investing in? What kind of returns are you getting? What if I can get you 12% a year secured by real estate? Would that be better than what you're getting? Sure, I'll be happy to show you how to invest. Absolutely. We got one guy who literally was our 3rd flip ages ago. He came in a second at $25,000 and asked more questions. It almost wasn't worth it. But right now, his entire family, extended family, invests with us. We do all private financing on everything we buy. And I think we probably have about $4.5 million out with this guy right now and his family. So you don't know.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Anybody else? Questions as we wrap up?
Awesome.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
So is this only for motivated sellers, or do you ever run into a scenario where they change their mind about selling after they see the house renovated?
I've woken up in a cold sweat about those things sometimes. No, we will not renovate a house for someone who even has an inkling of moving back in. They need to be out completely. They need to be moved into a new place. We don't do any work for buyers. We don't do any work for people that live in a home. We will only work on properties that we get to design, we get to control and manage, and they are not moving back in.
Understood.
Gotta make sure if they have all their stuff in a pod in the driveway waiting for you to finish, it's not going to happen because
Andrew changes their locks on them.
I do. Absolutely.
Oh.
Good question though. Yeah,
Thank you.
that will not happen.
Do you have anything written in the contract for it? Because, like, I mean,
We
That-
do
that's-
have provisions that say if the property doesn't sell within 6 months, we reserve the right. We start charging interest, a prohibitive interest on the money. We have the right to obviously put a lien on the property, and they have an obligation to pay us back within a certain time frame, or we'll
Okay.
take legal action. Again,
Okay.
you know, when
Never gotten to that point.
when someone's
Yeah.
90 moving into assisted living and they live alone, they're not moving back into their 3-story house.
Yeah,
Once you take the stair rail out and the walk-in tub, they're not moving back in.
they're out.
Yeah, that's a
So
good.
That's great.
All right. Anybody else? Cool. Eric,
Alright.
Awesome.
you got your answer that you needed, Eric?
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask what Ian was going to ask. I was
Okay.
curious to see if anybody had ever like just seen it updated and were like, "Oh crap! Like, what did we just do?" Like, I love it. Like, so that was kind of where I was going with it.
And it's kind of funny too, because we'll offer like, hey, you know, do you want to see the house once it's done? And some are like, oh my God, they want to see like videos like weekly of what's happening. They're really excited about it. They love the process. I've had other people walk back in afterwards and just start crying because
Aw.
they lived in just dumps for so long. You know,
Yeah.
most of 90% of the time they're really happy. Sometimes they're sad.
Yeah.
But we're willing to share that because people want their home to be loved, right? And they don't want to just
Yeah.
And that's
That's
when
awesome.
you ask for that testimonial. So document, reviews,
Yeah.
because that's the way, because you know you're dealing with the public, so the more credibility you can bring with other people's reviews and agents edifying you, that's how you grow this business model faster, or really any business, but especially where you're, you know, going to renovate something for the seller, you know.
true. And Lana's really good about this. She'll actually get testimonials from clients, and some are just tear jerking. You know, it's just, oh my God, the things you've done for us, and the extra $100,000 for my father to move into assisted living and extend his life, and it goes a
Awesome.
long way. I could bore you with those all day long, but we'll call it on this one.
Well, Andrew, thanks for making the time. I know you're
Yes.
traveling, you're busy, you know, Elena's doing presentations, you guys have a lot, and I know you travel a lot just for fun, which is something I admire about you as well. So I don't get to do that as much now, just now, because the kids are young, but I'll be back.
Right.
I'll be
That's
back.
right. The 10 years from now, man, you can be out there
I will. I'm gonna be thinking of Andrew. It's like I got to do what Andrew did.
when you're my age.
I love it. I put your contact info in the chat, so we are good there. Thanks, everybody. See you guys in a
Yeah.
month. Thanks again, Andrew. We'll get this out
Thank you, Andrew.
to, on the
I
podcast.
wish you all the best, and Randy, Eric, thank you. Always a pleasure meeting with you guys.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Mhm.
Awesome.
See you guys.